Hey guys, welcome to the first ever PropTech Carpool with SOHO, a regular series where we interview influencers and industry leaders in real estate and PropTech. The first video is with James Hayashi, a guy who went from being real estate agent in Sydney to one of Australia's premier auctioneers. This video has a gold mine of career advice from James. You guys should check it out. So James, you've got one of the most recognisable faces in Sydney real estate, especially in the auctioneering space. So how'd you get into being an auctioneer?
I sort of fell into that. I worked with a real estate agency as a sales agent for a number of years, and then decided to take a step out of selling. And the day that I resigned, I got a call from Damien Cooley, and he said, "James, come and be an auctioneer."
From Cooley Auctions? From
Cooley Auctions.
Yes.
I said, "Damien, you've got to be crazy.
Yeah.
I can't count, and I hate public speaking, so I'm not doing that." And he said, "James, I believe in you. I think you'd be good." So I thought, if you've got the best in the country backing you, you may as well give it a crack.
You mentioned before about, rejection. Is that a big stumbling block for a lot of new guys kind of coming into the industry? Maybe it's they have a bit of like a fear they're going to get rejected, or maybe it's even a fear that, they don't know what to say or don't know how to say it, or maybe they're talking to like an authority figure or something like that. Do you find that with the younger guys anyway, that might kind of hold them back a little bit?
Yeah, fear does play a big part with a lot of agents, and you see the successful agents, they can overcome that fear. Everybody's got that little voice in their head that says, "No, don't pick up the phone, go and do something else," or "No, I'll do that later on," or "No, that person doesn't want to hear from me." It's about turning that little voice off and just going for it. If you look at guys like Alexander Phillips, he's relentless in his work ethic. I think already this week on Wednesday, we monitor the calls throughout the office. By Wednesday, he'd already done 400 connections just on his landline. He'll probably end up doing about 1,000 connections this week.
Wow.
Which is incredible. So if you go and look at the numbers, real estate's a numbers-based game, right? So the more people you connect with, the more opportunities you're going to have, the more listings you're going to get, the more sales you're going to make. So the number one guy in the country is making 1,000 connections a week. Well, it goes without saying you've got to make those connections. What I see with agents is that when they start out, there's a lot of enthusiasm. They build the database of people that they want to connect with, that they work with. Then they get a reputation, some time in the market, and people start calling them. And often they drop off from actually connecting that database. They feel that they've got a reputation. They need to put the hard work in. Guys like Alex focus on the database. Bringing people to market, keeping them informed about relevant activity and what's happening within their property space.
So James, you've been in auctioneering for so long. What's some tips for a potential buyer that turns up to an auction?
Look, it's about understanding the market and where you see value. For a buyer, it's really about understanding what you think the property's worth. Where do you feel comfortable? Property's one of those things that we've been lucky in Australia where it's generally appreciated over the years, so you'll do well. But I was always taught that you make the money the day you buy. So you've got to really look at the property itself and how well it suits your needs and how happy you'll be there. Also going with a limit and sticking to that limit. In terms of bidding an auction strategy, I'm always a firm believer of being the first cab out of the rank. That going hard and going fast. Because auctions are psychological. That I see when an auction generally starts quite low, that the momentum builds, and I can see the buyers start forgetting about the price and the ego takes over. It's about winning.
Right.
So disengage the ego. No matter how much you love the property, know your limit. You don't want to overpay for something.
So how do you kind of see that between getting listings or then trying to control the buyer?
Real estate's definitely changed in terms of an agent's job function and how they operate. In years gone by, it was definitely about listing domination, so getting as many boards up as you can. But the consumer, the buyers and the sellers are a lot more savvy these days. So it's about adding value. So building relationships with buyers, helping them purchase, and not looking to get their listing and get paid. It's about how can we help you buy your property, do a great job, and then get the relationship and the referrals from that.
Yeah, gotcha. I guess within real estate, any funny moments or funny experiences, especially when you were kind of starting out, where you thought, "Oh, gee, I stuffed that one up," or I don't know, any kind of things along the way.
The things I've stuffed up, there's too many to count. I guess the funniest experience I probably had was at an auction I was doing on the Northern Beaches. It was a great house, sort of right on the beach, next to a reserve. We were holding the auction in the reserve. There were probably 200 or 300 people in the crowd that day. And there was this Labrador that just would not leave me alone. Ran up, was jumping on me, licking me midway through my auction.
Oh, while you were in
while I'm calling.
Right.
there's nothing like having 300 people laugh at you to make you pretty humble.
Classic.
Yeah.
Hey guys, thanks for watching PropTech Carpool with James Hayashi. For more cool videos, hit subscribe. You can also follow us on Facebook in the links in the description box below.